I think I am challenging people to do through my music and through the spiritual aspect of the music is to attach your mind to something totally new. I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I was adopted when I was 9 months old by a beautiful adopted family. I had an older sister and a younger brother, and my parents couldn't have children, so they adopted children and did the best they could. They're very religious, and in my teenage years, maybe I was far less welcoming to the religion, but we had to go to church. You know, it was part of growing up with them. But it was a sense of spirituality, you know, that they instilled in us, which was really important for me later on in life. I was the only brown kid, you know, in the family and in the neighborhood pretty much. So I didn't know much about culture. I didn't know much about the world really at all. I was homeschooled as well, so our curriculum was very limited. I started playing piano when I was 6 years old and found a great joy in this. My way out, my escape. By the time I was like 15 or 16, my parents and I were not getting along that great, so it was not long after 16 years old that they were like, get out. So I left home and I was very lost, you know. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. There was something missing, you know. So I ended up taking a job in Alaska, way far away from home. It was there that I really started to come into my own. It was there I started to use psychedelics. It deconstructed my mind. I was so entrenched in the religion that I had been brought up in. I was so entrenched in the small little world that I was raised in. I was very quiet. I was very reserved. I was very nervous around people. And just out of the divine intervention, the mushroom came to me. And it was like, break down every single thing of yours. And I remember the first time I'm sitting in the woods, staring at these thousands of acres of trees in the middle of nowhere. And I'm thinking, what is God? Who is God? And I remember starting to cry because thinking, oh, wow, everything I've been told is maybe different than what it really is. Most of the winter I spent traveling with no money really, with my guitar and usually a bag of mushrooms, and just driving, reading a lot of Jack Kerouac, reading a lot of Walden Pond kind of stuff, like Thoreau. I'd listen to the radio and listen to pop music. My dad would let me listen to oldies music like the Beatles or Simon and Garfunkel, growing up. So I had a very good sense of folk music. But when I discovered Bright Eyes, that changed my whole world because the way that he told his stories really resonated with me. And so I began to write a lot. I went back to Alaska that summer and they didn't hire me back to work the job again because I was crazy. And after one more summer there, I decided that maybe I was ready to find my birth mother. Just a random idea popped into my head because I knew about her a little bit, but something was telling me that I should go look for her. I flew back to Oregon in the fall, and the day that I got back, I found her. In my 20s is when I began to practice traditional practices of the indigenous peoples of Native America. And as I learned about my father's family, my father is Filipino, and my mother is Native American and Puerto Rican. I began to do sweat lodge, peyote ceremonies, and vision quests and things like this, and found a spirit mother and a spirit father. And so it's this interesting like triangle of things, like my birth family, my adopted family, and my spirit family. And then I'm like in this middle, you know, this thing. They have brought me through so much warrior training, I suppose, of bringing me out of a really angry time, a time where the Heyoka, the coyote spirit in me really wanted to just like play with people a lot because I'm kind of a trickster. And so I focused a lot on that for many years. But now in the last 4 or 5 years, having focused more on a grounded aspect of that work, taking my ceremonies very seriously. When I'm on stage, it's my place of empowerment. It's my ceremony space. I come there to recharge just as much as everyone else does. And so in the vulnerable and authentic space that I must bring to that stage, I have to have it be a reflection of what my ceremony at home is. And so I try to bring those worlds together, bringing what I pray for at home to what I pray for on stage, and have that prayer be something I can share with the world. The medicine really is what guided me through those questions and said, forget about it. Don't worry about it. You are your God, and this is nature, and this whole planet, all of these plants, these animals, these human beings are all part of the great divine. It's all part of the great spirit. It's all part of the creation, and we have come so far from that understanding. And that's what the medicine was telling me when I was very young. What I'm telling you is something familiar that you've already heard before, maybe, or you haven't heard before, but it's said in a new way. And it's said through this melody. And so I'm working on my own practice of attaching my mind to something that is completely new, so that the old construct breaks away, and the new one that is more natural, that is more holistic, that is more of the world, that is more of the dimensional aspects of who we really are, of our 5D selves. Working with anger and pain is something we all have to deal with, right? To be quite honest with you, I'm working through that so much right now. I think I avoided dealing with it a lot, the anger and the pain, when I was younger. I would write songs, you know, and I would create sometimes like very upbeat, happy melodies to discuss very hard issues. The music that I've been creating recently is, I would say, a far more clearer cry for help from the child that still is within me, of course. And so the inner child is like, hey, you've been pushing me away for all this time and channeling me through this other thing and creating bad habits and addictions, etc., whatever they are. And so now in the integrative process of merging all the aspects of myself, I am having to confront the anger and the pain in a way that is scary. You know, no one likes to look at themselves like that. I think that this is just the process of being human. The world and society has such oppressive material from the day you're born. You're inundated with psychological warfare, and you're told all these things. This is the way that the world is. This is how it works. This is how you're going to do it. This is what you believe in. This is how you will survive. Lots of us will get our anger and pain out through eating food or smoking or drinking or fucking, you know, whatever it is. We are humans. We're beasts. We're animals, you know, so we find ourselves with all these different ways to try and escape the pain or escape the anger. And what we need to do is face it head on. And that's the warrior's challenge, is to face all of your fears over time, not all at once, but to recognize what you're suffering from and to take the time to slow down and work on healing those things, to find a practice for yourself that can focus on those things, I think is really what's important.